morning. Welcome to Mornings with Mova, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. For those of you who have been following the news, in Pennsylvania, there will be a primary on May 20th. We have quite a few people running for judges. We have two people running for district attorney in Philadelphia. We have other row offices happening across the state of Pennsylvania. And so it behooves us. There's school board, there is state senator, there is all the things that are going on. So it behooves us to know who our candidates are and what they're running for, and why they're on the slate, etc. And so this morning we will have one person on who is running for judge. And so, we'll be able to have a discussion about that. Otherwise, we're going to do some news. I'll talk to all of you and see what's happening with you across the world, actually. I have been having conversations with people in Ghana, people in South Africa who are watching life unfold in these United States of America. I am watching folks having dialogue about. Um, visas. What does that look like? We had President Trump invited. Good morning, Melissa, and good morning, Monica. Good morning, Bobby Carr. President Trump invited some white South Africans here to come and live in the United States. Some of them are going to be farmers. And so we're continuing to try and keep up with the news. It is something that we have to do daily. And then for folks in the media are being really particularly careful about what's happening and how we report. It was said in a news article this morning that I just saw that if you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, so let's say you're coming from another country and you want to come and visit, but you need a visa to visit here, they're asking to have all your social media handles so they can see what you're up to. And if you're applying for a permanent visa to live in this country, you also now have to give them all your social media handles. Here's the issue: you can try to scrub it all you want. What it is what it is. So if you can't stand on what is it that you said, then don't apply. Because they may consider you an enemy of the state. So it's a lot of things going on. Good morning to all of you. Bill Gates planned to close his foundation and give away nearly all of his fortune in 20 years. That's happening. Folks, I think, let me just look here because I'm going to put up my news for all of you. Folks, I believe, thought that they were going to be okay. I am having dialogue now with brown people, black and brown people who are born and raised in the United States, who said now they suddenly don't feel safe. They thought, and I'm listening to these conversations, we thought it was just about the immigrants. And so they're now not feeling safe. And how are they going to navigate and manage around all of that? It is Tuesday morning, another day in paradise. I spent the morning and afternoon yesterday at a funeral. Lavonda Daniels passed away suddenly at the age of 45 and left her 11-year-old twins and her husband here, and a slew of family members. It was heartwarming to see. She had 104 cousins, 104 cousins, and one of them got up to speak, and she said, because of Lavonda, she is the cousin that I was looking up to because she got three master's degrees on top of her bachelor's degree and was working on her PhD when she took her last breath. And so we are all trying to figure out how to be encouraged in this moment. During COVID, quite a few people died of heart attacks, or folks had long COVID, or stuff like that is going on. So I think the health risks that we are seeing now on some level is due to the pandemic, due to stress levels, due to folks not having jobs, they lost their jobs, etc. And I this morning when I awakened at 3 o'clock, I went to scroll on the page of someone that I know is a very strong supporter of this president. And all he was talking about was his family, how everybody's doing well, and that he is getting his cryptocurrency, like he's bought Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin seems to be doing really well. And then I go back and I look, and his page is just filled with that kind of stuff. I go back and I look at my pages again, and it truly is whatever your algorithm is what's going to show up. So I don't see fights. I don't see anything crazy like that. My algorithm shows people graduating from college, people, living their best lives, people talking about the violence in the city, particularly the city of Philadelphia, and what that has meant for them. A young rapper, and I'll read that for you now. Oh boy, it's just always something happening. I've never heard of this person, so forgive me. Again, my algorithm doesn't show a lot of what the average people watch and pay attention to. Like, for instance, nothing showed up in my algorithm about P. Diddy. I completely forgot he was in on a trial, right? So I try to, I see gardening, I see that kind of stuff in my platform. Philadelphia rapper LGP QUA killed in a shooting in city's Juniata Park section. A Philadelphia rapper who adopted the moniker of the Voice of the Youth was shot and killed Sunday afternoon in Northeast Philadelphia. A representative for Kadir Johnson, known as LGPQUA, confirmed to Action News that he was murdered in the shooting. Investigators say it was right around 4:45 p.m. Sunday when the 30-year-old rapper and a friend were approached by three men in Juniata Park. Authorities described the scene as a robbery gone wrong, with one of the offenders shooting the rapper in the chest. He died a short time later at the hospital. LGBTQA spoke about gun violence and promoted positivity in Philadelphia. Meek Mill, one of Philadelphia's most famous rappers, took to Instagram to show respect for Johnson in the wake of his death. Killing ambitious young bulls like this on Mother's Day is a Philly type of thing, Meek Mill said in an Instagram post on Sunday. This stuff will make you different. Prayers to your family, and let's collect some of them guns. S sat out here. It's written by 6 ABC News. Trump ordering the U.S. to pay only the price other nations do for some drugs. President Trump on Monday called on drug makers to lower their prices within the next month to be closer to those charged in other high income countries, threatening to subject them to steep caps on how much they can earn from Medicare if they fail to do so. Starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we are doing. We're subsidizing others' health care in countries where they pay a small fraction of what for the same drug than what we pay, the president told reporters on Monday at the White House. Good morning, Sandra Barton. Good morning, my sister. How are you? Hey, Dennis, how are you, my brother? Uh, the United States and China agreed to slash reciprocal tariffs in a major step towards easing their ongoing trade war. A joint statement said that for a 90-day period, the United States will cut tariffs on Chinese goods in 30 to 30% from a high as 145%. China said its tariffs on U.S. goods will fall to 10% from 125%. President Trump departed for the first time major current trip on a second term today, heading first to Saudi Arabia and then to Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Trump will visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United through his most pressing regional challenges. Though his most pressing regional challenges concern two other countries, Israel and Iran, Trump signed an executive order that aims to lower prescription drug prices and discussed the measure at a press conference with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. Um, there's so much going on, y'all. Good morning to all of you. I see you here. I'll check the chat over here in YouTube in a second. Lawyers for the three-time Grammy winner P. Diddy say prosecutors are wrongly trying to make a crime out of a party-loving lifestyle that may have been indulgent but was not illegal. Combs' lawyer Tanae Garrigus, I can't hardly see the screen, though described the trial as a misguided overreach by prosecutors, saying that although her client could be violent, the state was trying to turn consenting sex between adults into a prostitution and sex trafficking case. Sean Combs is a complicated man, but this is not a complicated case. This case is about love, jealousy, infidelity, and money. Garagas told the 8 men and 4 women on the jury. There has been a tremendous amount of noise about this case over the past year. It is time to cancel that noise, she added, noting the intense public attention to the case has received. Mm. American Israeli hostage Idan Alexander, who had been held captive by Hamas in Gaza since October 7, 2023, was released on Monday after successful negotiations between the United States and the terrorist organization. The handover is not yet complete. Alexander is on his way with Red Cross officials to Israel Defense Forces members in Gaza. The IDF said Alexander's mother, Yael, has arrived at Reim military base in Israel near Gaza border to see her son before he's taken to a hospital in Tel Aviv. Retired Brigadier General Gal Hirsch, the Israel coordinator for prisoners of war and missing persons, and the U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff are also heading to the military base in Israel, an Israel official said, told ABC News. Lord have mercy. President Donald Trump is accepting a free Air Force One replacement from Qatar is a no-brainer. I would never be one to turn down that kind of offer, the Republican told reporters on Monday. I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. Critics of the plan worry that the move threatened to turn a global symbol of American power into an airborne collection of ethical, legal, security, and counterintelligence concerns. This is unprecedented, said Jessica Levinson, a constitutional law expert at Loyola Law School. We just haven't tested these boundaries before. Tried to tamp down some of the opposition by saying he wouldn't fly around in the gifted Boeing 747 when his term ends. Instead, he said the $400 million plane would be donated to a future presidential library, similar to how the Boeing 707 used by President Ronald Reagan was decommissioned and put on display as a museum piece. Mm. And so, what are your thoughts about that? Philadelphia Eagles to host Dallas Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field to open the 2025 NFL season. The game will be at 8:20 p.m. on Thursday, September 4th. The news dropped Monday morning ahead of the release of the full 2025 NFL schedule on Wednesday. We already know the Eagles will face the Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders, both home and away. We also know the Birds will face the Chiefs for a Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City. The Eagles' other away games will be against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Buffalo Bills. After nearly 3 weeks, one of the largest wildfires in New Jersey's history is now completely contained. On Monday, May 12, 2025, the New Jersey Forest Fire Service confirmed the Jones Road wildfire in Ocean and Lacey Townships in Ocean County was 100% contained after burning a total of 15,300 acres. While the fire is contained, officials warned that smoke conditions continue around the southeastern portion of the fire. Forest Fire Service members will continue to monitor the area. The fire began on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, at the Greenwood Forest Wildfire Management Area in Ocean City. The fire later spread, destroying a business in Lacey Township, closing nearby roads, and forcing thousands of people to evacuate. If memory serves me correct, someone was arrested for that fire, that set that fire on purpose. Manor College in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania announced it will be offering tuition free classes to workers laid off by closure of Crozier Health. Going into effect immediately, the college said that we'll be offering free courses with a $295 semester fee charge for the following introductory courses that include marketing, criminal justice, public policy, and more. In addition to the tuition free courses, former Crozier employees will have free access to Manor College's Career Center, including resume writing, job postings, mock interviews, and more. The closure of Crozer Chester Medical Center resulted in nearly 2,700 workers losing their jobs, leaving a huge void and increasing pressure on emergency medical services in Delaware County. Uh, on Monday night, Eagles executive vice president and general manager Howie Roseman is set to receive the most valuable Philadelphian award from the Philadelphia Visitor Center Corporation. That was written by CNN.com. Three teens were riding a SEPTA bus and became involved in an argument with a man who police say fired a gun at them. Officials with SEPTA said a group of juveniles were on a Route 15 bus Saturday evening, a little after 6:15 near 33rd and Girard Avenue. An argument broke out between the juveniles and a man on the bus. That person then fired a gun at the group and fled. So, can we have a conversation about the gun violence? It has come down. There's no denying it. I read to you the stats yesterday from the Philadelphia Police Department that shows that gun violence has come down, but people are still dying. And to one person on Facebook's point, look, people are still dying. It's still personal to the people who have lost the folks that were in in these shootings, and so it's hard. It's hard. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. And I'm going to open up my chat over here to see what people are saying because, Lord have mercy. Good morning, Roslyn. Good morning, my darling. How are you? Hmm. Good morning, Laverne. I see you. I see all of you. I just want to say thank you for joining me every morning. I really do appreciate it. My podcast room is almost ready. And so I'm excited to go back in that space. But once we get there, oh Lord, it's a lot going on. So let's see what's being said here on social media. Alexandra, what witness testimony? Because can you tell me what's going on? Again, I saw nothing. I forgot P. Diddy completely because I saw nothing, none of that stuff. Good morning, Marguerite, Alexandra, to Beatrice. Good morning, Beatrice. Jasenia, Cheryl. Good morning, my darling. Lena. Oh, she says I look pretty and cheery in my yellow. I love the color yellow. Thank you so much. Uh, oh, thank you all. Good morning, David. Uh, so Alexandra, talk to me. For anyone who has been following the Diddy trial, because apparently it has started. It's May 13th. No idea what was going on there. David, now that you're here, I just want to let you know that they spoke so highly of you in our conversation yesterday. They absolutely enjoyed it. And we're learning more about each other and our cultures and what aristocracy, you know, having blue-blooded wealth versus just gaining some wealth and creating spaces where you are different from everyone else, that you want to show that you're there, that you have some wealth. That how I grew up was this: the more wealth you have, the less you show it. The more wealth you have, the less you show it. So, it's a little different here for people of color. Some people of color. I'm not blanketing all of us with the same brush. Good morning, Shaquilla. Beatrice says, oh, they're talking about my little yellow dress. It's a little mini dress too, so my husband get to see legs today, but that's a whole nother story. Alexandra says he's accepting a bribe. She's talking about the president of the United States. She said he's accepting a bribe and the plane has to be stripped apart to make sure there are no listening devices planted within the interior of the plane. Uh, Lena says, Alexandra, I was thinking the same thing. Has it ever happened that a president of the United States accepted a $400 million gift? I don't think so. I'm going to take a look, see, but I don't think so. Let me just, uh, and again, hold on one second. Let me do this. I'm going to look. Has the president of the United States in recent history ever accepted a $400 million gift? hmm So he's talking about Trump. The Qatari royal family offered a super luxury Boeing 747-8 jet estimated to worth be around $400 million to the U.S. government. The proposal sparked outrage and raised questions about potential corruption and conflicts of interest. The potential impact is that the acceptance of such a gift could be seen as a clear example of the president intertwining his personal and presidential business. President Trump dismissed the ethical concerns, stating only someone stupid would turn down such an offer. He argued the gift would be for the Department of Defense, not him personally. Okay. Thank you, Viola. Marguerite says, I have a problem with gun violence. I have also have issues with adults interfering in child's play with guns. Pastor Waller talked about that on Sunday. He says, it used to be a time when children would fight and get, each other and do what they're supposed to. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Winetta. And get in with each other and do what they're supposed to do. But now the adults are being brought in and the parents are coming to the school with guns and knives and sticks and whatever else. And this is just Andrea talking. I feel like as a society, based on the things that we're watching, the Real Housewives of this and the Real Housewives, there's a lot of screaming and ranting and people tearing each other apart. And I don't think we recognized how it degraded our thought processes and the things that we say and do once we stop watching these things. We just don't care. Uh, People are showing up in the stores in pajamas and the pajama pants and they're here in nets and bedroom slippers and and getting on planes. I've never I and maybe I am old fashioned. It is quite possible that I could be, but there are just certain things that you should do. I'm at a funeral yesterday and I'm sitting in the car because I'm telling you, I railed. I did not want to go. I just knew I was going to be completely upset. And so I was sitting in the car from 9 o'clock. The funeral started at 11. I show up nowhere late, I promise you. Funeral started at 11. And I was watching adults showing up in workout pants and a t-shirt and a little sweater. And I turned to Denise, who was an educator, and I said, is this how we show up to school? She said, oh, honey, they come to school in all kinds of things to teach the children, then want to put in rules about the children and what the children should wear. If the adults are not the example, I was heartened to see the adults who came in with a little heel on and, they had on a cute little dress or a pantsuit or whatever. But I'm telling you, if the adults are showing up to work now in sweatpants and bedroom slippers and all these other things, what are we expecting from the children? The only way we can write policies and rules that are in effect is if we then show up to work looking like we're supposed to be, that we're supposed to do. And I just don't know where we're going to go from here. It's just crazy. Speaking of, stick a pin, just say Martin Luther King High School, and I'll come back to it. Lena says, I don't understand the rage with people. There's so much anger in the world amongst our people. There is. There's a lot of unspoken things that are going on, Lena. People are feeling crazed. And it's not just happening to some, it's happening to most, if not all of us. We have no temperance. We don't know how to speak to people. We don't, I don't know what something like that happened to me in church. Somebody hollered at me and I was like, well, wait, and I just walked away. Ended up apologizing at the end, but I was like, there are ways for us to speak to people. It makes a difference. And if we, and I'm telling you, the anger, the feeling like I just have to to be heard, and I don't care what anybody else is saying. It happens all the time, and in order for people to want to pay attention and listen to anything that we say, we have to be tempered. We just can't be just fly off at the lips about whatever it is that we want to say in the moment. It just doesn't make sense. Melissa Harris says, why are we so surprised? Corruption is corruption no matter where you are. Sandra says, government employees and even contractors to government agencies are not allowed to accept gifts that exceed a certain amount. Even when government employees visit contractors and supplier sites, they're not even allowed to accept lunch. They have to pay a reasonable price if lunch is offered to avoid the look of impropriety. I remember a city council member wanted to have breakfast with me one morning, and I refused. I said, "Listen, I will pay. I will absolutely pay." Because to her point, we just have to be mindful. Tamara says, "Good morning, Tamara." Alexandra says Diddy would have Cassie recruit men for threesomes and pay them on behalf of Diddy. He testified about her fear and Diddy physically abusing her in an adjacent room. Wow. Ooh, baby. Lena says it just shows he can be bought and purchased. I assume you're talking about the president. Alexandra says it's in the Constitution that he cannot do what he did. Yes. Okay. Morning, Tamara. Joanne, Andrea, as you said, Trump can't seem to make Israel, Gaza, or you make. Oh, I that was my reading an article. The article I read, Andrea, as you said, Trump can't seem to make it to Israel, Gaza, or Ukraine, but sure has time to get over to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE when his financial greed is of interest. So you're all are saying that this is not correct, right? That the Constitution says this isn't correct. Alexandra says Roland Martin speaks with an attorney who was in the courtroom. Her name is Candace. Okay. Uh, Tamara says my co-workers think I overdress for the classroom. My mama would beat me down if I came to work in tights. I'm telling you, there were so many young teachers walking into that funeral with tights on and a t-shirt, and I was like, all right, Andrea. It just did something to me. Like I'm going out today. This morning. I have things to do, but you can tell by the way I'm dressed that I'm not going anywhere this morning. That I would, because it's just a little dress. But if I'm people are always looking and going, oh my God, you're so dressed up. I wish I would. My mother would raise up from the dead and go, where are you going looking like that? But there's just a thing now. We need comfort exceeds anything else. Joanne says, I was at the King of Prussia Mall Mother's Day, and I swear on my mother, there was a 30 something black woman with a very short skirt and no underwear. You could see everything, cellulite behind, etc. Joanne, I saw that at a concert too. The skirt was so short, she had on no underwear. I could see her butt cheeks. And I'm saying, how are we doing this? Ah, ah. Jana Malice says, I can't believe how some educators show up. Sandals and jeans should not be worn. But then these same educators get on the air and complain about the children. The children show up to school in any old thing, but how are you showing up to work? Alexandra says, Joanne Kemp, those tennis skirts, it's been all over social media. I don't get it, y'all. I do not get it. The summer display of how people dress. Sorry that they have to take their coats off. Viola. Uh, Lena says, you mentioned MLK High School, baby. Keystone testing and no educators. So I reached out I'm going to be very transparent with all of you because this is not the first time I've had a conversation about Martin Luther King High School. The first time I did it, there was someone else in communication, and she promptly wrote back to me and told me to be very careful about spreading misinformation. And when I got finished, very gently but effortlessly telling her that these were the receipts I had. The guy that was in charge of the health department calmed it by saying, Andrea is right. Because, see, if I'm coming to you, that means I have done some research and some homework about what is going on. He said, Andrea is right. And he apologized. She did all of this via email. Next thing I know, she left the school district. So now Monique Braxton is the person who is in charge of communications. To be fair, I'm giving her until the end of this week. I texted her yesterday, made her aware that I've been following the things that have been going on at Martin Luther King High School. This is not just about not having the teachers. I'm waiting for her to respond. If she does not get back to me until Friday, because her text was she's away at the moment through today. So if she does not respond by Friday, on Monday morning, when I get on the air with David Alexander Jenkins, I have everything in email. I have all the receipts. Because you see, I have been quietly having the dialogue about what was going on in that school for months. It's been over a year, but for the last 9 months, I have been intensely having conversation. I've had conversations with other principals. I have had conversations not just in the school but out of the school. I've had conversations. I have had conversations with students. I have had conversations with alumni. I have had pseudo conversations. I even reached out to Pastor Waller and I said, this is the school where you put all this money into. He reached out to the head of the school district who assured him that everything was going to be okay. And so if I don't get a response by the end of this week, on Monday, I'm going to gently outline to you everything that I have in my possession. Those children are just not given what those children should have. Um, the stories that I have to tell you are going to blow your minds, but I promise you that, and again, I kept saying to folks, I need the paperwork. I need somebody to share with me. I called some other principals outside of the school and I said, tell me what you can find out. They were like, baby, Andrea, everything you said is happening. We have talked to area superintendents of that space. Folks know what's going on in that building. And I'm going, all right, so now we're going to, even, I even had someone from the Philadelphia Inquirer reach out to me and I said, listen, I can't share with you what I know because I gotta make sure that I'm following protocol. Well, they've reached out to a student there, and it's in the news that they hadn't had this young girl said she hadn't had an English teacher for over a year. Right? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So I need you all to bear with me because I don't ever, even when others would have been like, a little birdie told me that's not my style. It has never been my style. And so I don't ever want to um put something out there because once you put it out, it cannot be taken back. But somebody from the Philadelphia School District need to tell me something. And I reached out again to Pastor Waller. He's like, no, no, no. I said, yes, 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 Pastor Waller. And I sent him everything that I had. So we just have to figure out how to navigate through this because it's unconscionable that children are just not as valued in some buildings as they are in others. That we have adults who don't value them as they are in other buildings. And so you got until Monday, Monday morning, Monday morning, Monday morning. And I waited months. I was doing my research. I was asking the questions. People were calling me. I said, listen, if we're going to talk about this, I need the evidence. Something has to give in that building and not next year, but right now. Right now, because it shouldn't have taken the Philadelphia Inquirer. So I got the call. I was at the funeral. I said, I'm at a funeral. When I called back, they were like, well, did you see the article in the Philadelphia Inquirer? I was like, no, did not see it. I won't even read that article today. I'm going to wait until Monday. For those of you who have seen it, then you know what's going on over there. But it goes way deeper. And I do mean way deeper. And so to give the school district of Philadelphia, an opportunity to tell me something so that I can show up for you guys and give you what? Show up for you guys to tell you what I know to be true. Because I've always been someone who would do the research before I do anything. I didn't have to wait 9 months, y'all. I did not. But I kept saying, uh, undercover, I was like, well, all right, we'll just wait to see what happens. We'll just wait to see if things get better. Things did not get better. Things got worse. Um, uh, Lord have mercy. Lena says this is from a student, so there is something going on. The adults have been screaming for months, screaming that something has to happen there. Let me see. Alexander said, I saw that article in the Philadelphia chapter of the White Sheet Society thinks it's funny saying you don't need English, you can just use Ebonics. Yeah, so again, we'll talk about that on Monday. Let me let in Tanisha Henry. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Let me introduce you to the folks. Because I was on a tear just now about students. So let me pull it back and have a conversation with you. Um, Lord. Am I pronouncing your name properly? Tanisha?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yes.
Tanisha Henry Esquire is currently running for election for judge of the Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas in Pennsylvania. Henry is on the ballot in the Democratic primary on May 20th, 2025. That is next week, Tuesday, 7 days from today. She's a proud native of West Philadelphia, and her educational journey is truly inspiring. Graduated from Girls High, Lord, I'll hear about them now, and went on to Howard HU, where she earned a degree with honors while juggling two full-time jobs. They don't make people like they make black women, I promise you. Throughout her school years, she demonstrated exceptional leadership skills as an active participant in student government and various art programs, etc., etc. Currently, Tanisha focuses on serving Philadelphia's most vulnerable children, providing essential services through group home placements. She champions their causes by offering general and mental health treatment. life skills development, and so much more. Her dedication extends beyond advocacy. She embodies the role of a caring adult who understands and supports youth navigating challenging experiences. Somebody sent you to me, Tanisha, because I'm all about the young people, all about them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome to Mornings with Marvel. There are people watching on three different platforms right now. Talk to me about who you are as a person and why did you decide this was the time for you to run for Common Please, Church of Common.
Yes, thank you. My campaign slogan is that I'm someone for everyone. And so what I mean by that is that um tip I can identify with the litigants that come through a courtroom. Because my entire career has been a service to either the courthouse or to the city of Philadelphia. And so I understand what it's like to live in the city of Philadelphia. It is a rather harsh life city experience. But I tell people that I'm someone for everyone because I have lived in and currently still living in the same situations and circumstances. So I understand why we might, as human beings, make some of the poor choices that we make. I understand what it's like to have your back up against the wall. I understand to feel like you don't have any options and you have to choose something different. I know what it's like to make one of those decisions and be a defendant in a courtroom. I know what it's like to have the county children's services at my door. I know what it's like to have police at my door. I know what it's like to live with domestic violence. I know what it's like to be displaced. I've been displaced as a child and as an adult with two full-time jobs and a college degree. I understand what it's like to be targeted for gun violence, even in the area that I live in now, targeted for home invasions and armed robbery and even car theft. And even as an attorney in the city of Philadelphia, I know what it's like to not have enough money to buy your groceries and to have to get them at a food bank. I know what it's like to be divorced and to also lose a child. I get what's happening in this city. I've been here most of my life. And so I get it. When you get your constitutional right of notice and opportunities to be heard, which your awareness to come into court and tell your story, you want to make sure that it's not going into one ear and out the other. You want to make sure that it resonates, that whomever you're speaking to and whoever's about to make decisions that are going to impact your life for a lifetime, as well as those around you in your community, you want to be sure that you're talking to someone who gets it, someone who understands, someone who is going to consider your traumatic life experiences while making a decision. I am that someone. I am someone for everyone. I also tell people that it's not just because I'm black, it's not just because I'm female. And those things are important to diversify the bench. Only black people know black people terms and colloquialisms. And so that is helpful. But I represent many cross sectors of society. I am also Caucasian. Look at the color of my skin. I am also Jewish. I am also Cherokee Indian. And so I really truly believe that I am someone for everyone. When I was coming up in high school and college, I took 6 levels of Spanish. I did not want there to be a distance between me and what was projected at the time to be something that was going to become the primary language across the nation. I have been preparing myself for to serve the community at large all of this time. I don't think that you're going to find that in anyone else. And while I take the position that I understand things, I also understand what it is to do the hard work, to not be a product of your environment, to rise above your circumstances, to do the healing work, and to become the best versions of yourself. I have also done that. That is the balance that I don't think you're going to find in most people. It's a balance that you can't mimic. It's a balance that you cannot buy. I am definitely someone for everyone. And I think I would be very influential and essential in the community of Philadelphia as a judge.
I swear to you, if everybody was as eloquent as you were 15 seconds into this speech, then we would have better candidates running for whatever the hell they're running for. I, but by 30 seconds, I was like, oh my God, I'm glad I'm interviewing you because you would have just been a name on a ballot that I wouldn't have known this history and the story, which is why we're doing this on the air right now. I'm grateful that whoever reached out to me to have you on the platform, I'm grateful. Tell me a little bit about your story, your personal story, because my sister, domestic violence, displaced. We have had, and let me tell you why I'm asking you. I have had people screaming. I have interviewed so many people who have found themselves in the Department of Human Services, their children taken away, their children sent to other places. They've sent me all this documentation about what's going on. And their biggest concerns are the judges who don't listen to them and dismiss them out of hand. They feel unheard. If they know you, that Laura said you nailed it, and Melissa said, "Tell me more." I'm telling you, they're just like, "Wait, what?" Everybody talks about their degrees. Everybody talks about, which is a beautiful thing to also do. But you have a lived experience that makes people now, people more intrigued. Tell me a little bit about you. What led up to this place where you wanted to run for judge?
If you ask my aunt, she'll tell you that I've been telling people I wanted to be an attorney since I was 5. Obviously, I can't remember that, but I do have some hints going back that I felt like I needed to do something different, and it had to be for the community. I'm a firm believer that we are not here in this earth for ourselves, and the gifts and callings that we have are for others. And to hold on to that would be selfish, to be selfish instead of selfless. What am I? Selfless. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. But I did have a few experiences where I understood that I had to go this route. Didn't always know that I had to be a judge, but I always knew I had to be an attorney because I would look around me and see that people lacked access to resources, legal resources, oftentimes because they didn't have money. Representation, oftentimes people didn't look like them or talk like them or have similar lived experiences. So when I enter into a scene, I'm a problem spotter. I'm an issue spotter. I look for what's wrong, and I don't know where I got that from, but that's who I've been growing up. My grandparents, my maternal grandparents, raised me for a great deal of my life, and from them I learned service. As long as you could find their address or their telephone number, which had not changed in 40 years, and you would show up, they would nurse you back to life, give you what you needed, and you would never hear about it in the street, and nobody was ever asking for no money. That's how I was raised to serve. In elementary school, I still remember I couldn't go home after school. I had to report to the shelter that my grandparents helped do the cooking and the management of. So I remember the individuals and families that I served as a youth. When I became a teenager, my mother took me to live in St. Michael, Barbados, West Indies, as a missionary. I was only a teenager at the time, but I served as a missionary as well. And even while there, where we lived, there were no sidewalks, dirt roads. I walked miles and miles to school every day, and on sideless streets where the cars were driving like on the opposite side, and then I would be having to dodge chickens and stuff that was gathering at my ankles.
That's
But I
island
could look
living.
that I could look
Yes.
to my left or right,
Mhm.
and I could see my neighbors publicly bathing because not everyone had access to indoor running water. And so that did something to me. I thought I was poor living in West Philly where I would have seasons where I had holes in my soles going to school. But that's a different type of poverty and it opens you up to so much. When I got back home, I'm just a teenager. I said there is more that has to be done. Obviously, things could be worse for me, but they are worse for others, even at home, not just abroad. And so I really got to apply myself and I really got to do this thing. Were no attorneys on my mom's side of the family. And so I said, I got to set the bar high and I got to use what I know is already within me to redeposit in the earth. So I had to do this thing. It wasn't until much later where I heard the Spirit of the Lord tell me that I had to run for judge. I didn't know when, I didn't know how. I was asking questions like, are you sure you're talking to me? Because I don't know if I'm smart enough. I don't know if that's a weight that I could carry. But he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. I understand that this is the burden that I have to carry in this earth, and I do believe that now is the time.
Yeah. My Lord, on today. Melissa Harris says, "That's it. Compassion. She gets it. She gets it." My Lord. Okay, so talk to me about the kind of judge you hope to be when you get on the bench. How much research have you done, or how much lived experiences have you had with judges? Because when I talked to you about the moms from DHS or the aunts or the family members, did that ring any bells for you? Did you see any of that in the courtroom?
Absolutely. I'll start with I was a trained mediator before I became a litigator. The university that I went to get my doctorate of law, at the time, it was throughout the nation, it was in the top 10 of dispute resolution practitioner schools. And so my doctorate came with a certification in ADR. I didn't want to be a litigator because I didn't like the stress, the intensity, and the messiness and the nastiness of courtrooms. I believe in mediation. I believe in bringing the parties together. I believe that everybody should have something when they walk out the door, that the outcome should be beneficial for everyone. And that makes perfect sense when you're especially talking about families. So
Right.
when I came back to Philadelphia, I was a mediator, but I was assigned to family court, where I would help people who had come through the system through DHS work out issues before going into the courtroom so that they can avoid the stress and the embarrassment of litigating an entire trial. Oftentimes, there were actual problems in the home, but if the social services teams and the legal teams and the parties can work together to resolve without that banging of the gavel, that's what I would help them do. Eventually I did become a litigator. I actually became a city solicitor where the cases I was assigned to were those child welfare cases. And so I know firsthand what it's like to see those cases from start to finish. Those cases would last an average of 2 years. So I would work with families for years. Um, I started that job in 2014. I'm still seeing some of those youth now in my current career. Because they were generations of families cycling through, unfortunately, because there's been a cycle of these things. I'm still seeing some of those children who now have children who are now back in the system. So this, for me, this stuff never ends. It never cuts off. The families actually, to me, they never leave the courthouse. But after that, I became a judicial law clerk where I clerked for a judge who was assigned these same exact cases. She and I actually were colleagues prior to her taking the bench, Her Honor Deborah L. Kinsey in family court. And as a law clerk, my job description was very unique from others. She would sit me on the bench next to her and use me as a live legal encyclopedia. Even though she was much older than me and had practiced much longer than me, she trusted my brain, my ability to break down complex information and to be resourceful. And when things would come before her that she had never seen in her much longer career, and she would pause the mic and say, "Hey, have you seen this before?" And I'm no, those are called matters of first impression. And in front of the whole entire courtroom of all of our peers, because we have both practiced in this industry for a long time, we would navigate through the statutes together. If this, then that. If we respond this way, Tanisha, how do you think the superior court is going to respond? Now I got to guess to think about people and things and their perspectives that I ain't never even met before that I don't even know. But we
Mhm.
would strategize together and she would go with that. She had, in all the appeals that she had and all the opinions I drafted, she had never been overturned.
Wow.
I had a firsthand experience seeing those litigants come to the courtroom because she would literally sit me right next to her. After that, I became a hearing officer in Philadelphia. It used to be called a master. I was actually operating as a mini judge. I'll use that term so people can understand.
Mhm.
I had my own courtroom. I had my own cases, and I was presiding over them independently. It was a slightly different practice area of law, but the litigants would come in to my courtroom, and they sometimes they would be angry. They would be going at each other. You didn't know if they were going to fist fight, and I would turn the litigation into a conversation because remember I'm a mediator by choice, and so we don't have to do things this way. And so I would go through the statutes with them and help them understand the court process and procedure. I would give them to them in baby terms so that each party understood what we're doing in this stage, why these questions are being asked to you, and what the potential outcomes could be. People were learning and they were very grateful for the first time to understand something in court. Oftentimes people leave the courtroom and they have no, even when they have an attorney, they have no idea what just happened. And an attorney is not smart enough to say, hold on, let me slow this down so that the person who's paying me or that I'm being paid to service actually gets it. I recognize that being in the city and the court all my life, that that's happening all the time. That's crazy. Somebody should do something about that. So when people came to me, that's what I did. They would walk out of my room sometimes after coming in trying to fight like cats and dogs, and they would be laughing because they would understand what it means to focus on the interests of the child and not their own
Mhm.
emotions. They would have tools so that they could work with each other even long after they left my courtroom. I would have ex-murderers and even child sex offenders coming in to get custody of their kids. And they would, after the hearings, they would say, "Well, why were you so kind? I know you saw my record. How come you didn't throw the book at me?" That's not the job. While that is a factor that I must consider, I'm not here to abuse you about the 20 years you done time you already served, the fines you done already served, the services that you've already long ago completed. That's the reason why you're in front of me. And while that is a factor, that's not the focus point. You're still a human being at the end of the day, and you should not walk out feeling belittled or emasculated. That's not the goal. And even if the answer was no, they would walk out and still thank me because it was about the treatment. It was about the knowledge they gained and the understanding.
In a world where you can be anything, be kind. I have said that over and over again. So as you were talking, I had a vision. And my vision was this. You are going to end up on the United States Supreme Court one day. They don't make them like you much anymore. I've
Mhm.
interviewed 1,000 people running for judges. I've interviewed a gazillion lawyers, and what I hear is about how gifted they are at what they do. No one seems to have the conversation around this is why. There are few of them, and I can think of one who's near the top of the Supreme Court now in Pennsylvania, who really cares about what happens to children, who cares about what happens to family, not just following the rule of the law, but truly understanding what's going on in the family so that you can work it out. You're unique. Tamara said, there I am. She did that. Wow, she put it all out there, and I am in for it. Nothing like personal experience and connection. Viola says, I will tell my family and friends that live in Philadelphia. Marguerite says, and she drops them. I'm telling you, I've
Thank
had
you.
many a conversation. Jana Malice says, excellent compassion presentation. Thank you, Andrea, for this guest. Lord, they're still talking. Alexandra says she embodies every individual who walks into a courtroom. She'll hear from and not just see them. And oftentimes, Tanisha, thank you, Jesus, for whoever sent you my way. Thank you, Laura. Because oftentimes when we see people running for judges and they tell you about their credentials, etc., they get into the courtroom and they're the biggest. They treat the people that come before them with disdain. They
Mm,
see their family history and they just talk to them any old kind of way. We have to find a place to be compassionate, and the courts are missing that terribly,
mhm.
right? Beatrice says, please put her full name in the chat. I will surely vote for her on Tuesday, May 20th. It's Tanisha Henry. Tanisha Henry. Somebody write that for me, please, because I'm talking as I'm doing this.
Ballot
Uh, Say that again.
ballot number 13.
Ballot number 13. Beatrice says, this sister is giving me chills. Oh, baby, she is thorough. Tamara says, she's giving me life this morning. I'm hearing I can do all things. See what I mean? For them
Yes.
50s, I can tell. Alexander says, baby, this is the candidate the city of Philadelphia needs. We need about 15 more of you,
Mhm.
truly.
Mhm.
And Beatrice says, yes, absolutely. Lord, they want your name. Somebody put her name in the chat, please. Tanisha. It's Taniesha Henry. And you should see her name if you're watching me on YouTube. You should see her name at the bottom left of the screen, right? Um, Beatrice says, "Baby, let's continue to lift this sister up and vote for her and spread the word. Share the news. They really feel your compassion. You really feel the compassion." And Viola said, the ones that are getting voted in are do nothings. That's the part,
Mm,
right?
mm,
I keep saying, as you get into office, be a servant. Don't sit
mhm.
there waiting for people to serve you. I've seen folks walk into the room, Tanisha, I call them the muckety mucks. Do you know who I am? I need to be
Mhm.
seated up at the front. I need to be introduced when I walk into the room. And I don't see the humility, which is why they get so offended when people call them out about what's not going on in the city. Tamara says you feel her energy for the cause and you can tell she means what she says. It's Taniesha. Taniesha. Shaquilla, you missed the E, but that's her name, Tanisha Henry. What do you want to tell people now about May 20th? Why should they vote for you if it hasn't already been obvious? My God, I need more people like you to interview.
I think that's simple. I don't like to brag and boast and self promote. So I oftentimes will tell people my story should speaks for itself. My history speaks for itself. However, if it was not clear, and I'm not being arrogant, I truly believe that what is within me is necessary for the city of Philadelphia. I think it's necessary for the bench. I think it's necessary for litigants past and present. I think it's necessary to help restore faith and confidence in the judicial system. And although it'll be one courtroom at a time, I hope to inspire others. I hope to live a life of demonstration. I will be the type of colleague that will call out craziness, call out injustice. If you ain't doing something right and you're mistreating people, I'm not afraid to address what's going on. And I know how to do it in a way that's not going to be embarrassing, but it's going to be
Yes.
compelling.
Yes, ma'am. So Wanda says, good morning and happy liquid sunshine. David Alexander Jenkins says she is everything.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Thank
you
you.
know,
Thank
and
you.
someone else, Melissa says, you will know them by their fruits. You were a breath of fresh air this morning. I
Thank you.
cannot thank you enough. I have always said to Nisha that, poverty is different in different places. You nailed that thing on the cross when you talked about abject poverty, not having a place to bathe. You have to bathe outside. These people washing themselves, chickens running on. That's poverty. And in these United States of America, Melissa says, we need to pray for you. Agreed. Um,
Absolutely.
you need some prayers because it's very difficult. There's a lot of ego running around with, chips on shoulders, and it's very difficult to navigate through that. And that's mostly that we see around us now. There's no humility with us. Monica says, thank you for this interview. We need her personal experience, compassion, honor, and love on the bench. Number 13, my favorite number. You have my vote, Tanisha Henry.
Thank you.
So
Bless you.
grateful that you were here, grateful that you understood. We were talking about poverty versus abject poverty. And even right here in these United States, Tanisha, because I've driven across this country 5 times and back on purpose.
Mm,
Just want to see
mm-hmm,
what life is like for folks, and where we can show compassion and kindness. And the abject poverty that is in some parts of this country, you would not believe it. It's like living in the island somewhere, chickens
mm-hmm,
running around, roofs falling down. But we don't talk about that. We try to make life look glamorous here in these United States. And we really
mm-hmm,
have to find a place for people. Somebody has to sit in a space of position and authority that shows kindness and empathy and understanding. And
mm-hmm.
listen, I can't tell people who to vote for. Ooh, child. You are good. You are
Thank
really,
you.
really good. And so I appreciate your being here. She's going to be on the ballot, number 13, May 20th, on the Democratic ticket. Please look up her name. Please go ahead and continue to do your research. I think she has given you everything. I have one question for you. I have one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you say you struggle the most in this work?
Um, it took me a long time to actually see myself as who I really am. Living in this society and people always dimming you down. I remember when I wanted to go to college, members of my own family laughed at me because how you going to get there? Who has the money? And where you going to get the loans from? You laugh a lot. You sure? Even now, you smile a lot. You sure you can be a judge until people hear me speak like, oh, she's nothing to be played with. And so I have a hard time acknowledging who I am in the face of adversity. But that time is over. Time is up.
Yeah,
Jokes
that's
on them.
right. That's right. Winetta Smith, she says, I am so proud of you, sister. We need more people like you and your understanding of lived experiences.
Thank you.
They really enjoyed you. They really, really did. I am sending you uh all the good juju. Just continue to pray, continue to do what you're doing. We're amplifying your voice. I'm sure you'll get some more calls now by people who want to talk to you, but it's days before the election. I run my own media company, so I can talk to you and not worry about what other people may think and want.
Hmm.
60 days out or 30 days out, this is important stuff. And so I am grateful to have had you on the platform, and we wish you good luck. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you. God
You're
bless
welcome, my
everyone.
sister. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. And God's gonna trouble the water. Do you know what I like about her? What I like about her? Her work spoke for herself. The work. She just kept putting in the work, putting in the work, putting in the work, doing what she needed to do. And when it was time for her to rise up out of that water, she did beautifully. I have said it over and over and over again until I am weak at the knees. If you can be anything, be freaking kind. Just be kind. Treat people well. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't walk in the room with your title on your shoulder. Walk in the room with humility. Some people may know who you are, others may not. Pastor Waller talked about this the other day. He was at some event, and the lady said when she heard he was from Enoch, she said, "Child, I love that pastor that's over there and the things that are going on and blah 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 blah." And she said, "Well, what do you do?" And he said, Oh. And he said, Counselor Johnson, did you want to go live with me? Maybe not. Maybe you pressed that by accident. All right. Um, and and he said when he got up to speak, because he never told her, never said he was the pastor. He was just, he said, I work over there. I do a few things over there. You do not. The lady almost fell out of her seat. She was like, oh my God, you're the pastor of the church. It was so funny. You never have to announce yourself when you are doing what is good and right for the people. Are you always going to get it right? No. But humility says, you know what? I didn't get this right. I didn't get this right. Please forgive me. And you don't have to defend yourself when people see who you are and what you're about. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. I'm getting off this air because I'm just loving you all. Thank you all so much. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Mova. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye, darlings. Bye, bye. Bye, sweetie. Bye. See you tomorrow.